Hey everybody, welcome to my Suburban Oasis. My name's Soleil and I garden in a zone 6A in mid-Michigan, and it is a gorgeous day out today. We hit the mid-70s, and so things have just been blossoming after we got our rain, and everything is just greening up. So let's take a look around and take our weekly walkabout and garden tour. Well, right here, starting in the potager, you can see our strawberry Sunday hydrangea is getting nice and green. Look at all of that. This is a panicle hydrangea and the leaves are just flush. And over here we actually, oh my goodness, look at that. We have a first iris bloom. These smell so nice and sweet. One of the viewers recently commented last year about these and said that they smell like grape soda, and ever since she said that, I have to agree, they do smell like grape soda, and they're so pretty. The lettuce is doing really well despite having lots of bunnies and groundhogs. It has not been eaten, so I'm excited about that. And we're probably going to be getting some columbine blooms over here in the middle of the garden. I did take out the fig like we talked about in our last garden tour. Oop, there goes the bunny. You see him? He's not even afraid of me anymore. He just kind of watches me and runs one way. He's way faster than I am. But I think at this point I'm going to take this cloche off of this firelight tidbit right here, which is growing really well. Look at that. And we have some buds on this clematis, which hasn't been doing that great, but that's part of why I planted this firelight tidbit here, so it will help to shade the roots of the clematis a little bit better. I divided that one a few years ago and it just taken some time to reestablish itself. This pink mink clematis is growing way up above the fence right now, which is kind of cool. I'm hoping some of it flaps over the other side as well so we could see some blooms on both sides of the fence. I think that would be really cool. And our peonies in the back of this garden bed are starting to really bud up. Hopefully we'll see those soon. And we have our little lime hydrangeas. And this rainbow sensation Weigela is starting to put on some buds, some little pink buds. So that will bloom a light pink. And the deutzia over here is just starting to open. This is the Yuki cherry blossom deutzia. So it'll be like a light pink bloom. Be really pretty. I did plant some geraniums on either side of the shed this last year, and they have kind of a dark foliage. It's kind of a mix between the green and the more black purple foliage. In fact, I'll show you the Boom Chocolata geranium that we have over here, which looks great. Isn't that great? Look at that foliage. What contrast that has to the green. And it's right in front of another geranium, which is the geranium macrorrhizum. And the geranium macrorrhizum is so healthy because we've had so much rain, it's almost covering this strawberry Sunday hydrangea right here. You can see I'm still having little maple seedlings popping up throughout my garden, but better than that is this beautiful ajuga. Look at that spring bloom on that. And this is just the regular ajuga ground cover. I just think it's absolutely beautiful. We're getting a lot closer to being almost done with the mulching around the garden. And it sure does make it look nice, doesn't it? You can see just all of those blooms of the lungwort going in the front of the garden space. And this again is the Autumn Jubilee 9-bark, which will get quite large. I think this one could actually get maybe up to 12 feet tall. So that would be really nice. Have a really good presence and a really nice contrast to the purple leaf plum over here. The daffodils in this space are going over. We're starting to see some new growth of the leaves on the hellebores. Now, I do have this hydrangea over here that I wanted to show you in case you're experiencing this as well. Sometimes there are little leaf worms that get inside these and you have to peel the leaves apart. Hold on, let me pull it apart. And when you pull the leaves apart, you can actually go in and make sure that the worm is out and that way it won't hurt your flowers. So you can just pick them apart. If you don't want to touch the worm, you don't really have to. As long as you just pick it all apart and open it up, that should help do the trick. They're kind of like a little teeny baby caterpillar. Just look at these lungworts, you guys. I just can't even think that the camera does them justice, but I think they're so pretty. And you can really start to see the ferns coming out now. Back here, the Japanese ferns. Some are in a little bit more protected areas, so they're further along. And this is the pink diamond hydrangea paniculata tree that we have. And all of the hostas are starting to come up throughout the garden as well. Probably the worst loss from the freeze for me was some of my bleeding hearts. And I wanted to show you this too. They flap over like this, and so the stem is bent, which means that they're not going to be able to get everything that is needed to the blooms. So you can just cut it off there if you want to, or cut it all the way down to the ground. This one over here was not affected though, so it's looking really pretty. And just looking at this area with the penny pink hellebores and the lungworts. So pretty. And these lungworts are just continuing to bloom. These are the spot on variety. And some nice new foliage beginning to flush on this hellebore here. The hopscotch fun and games heuchera, or heucherella actually. This one I believe is a cross between a heuchera and a tiarella. And just look at this garden and how much it has changed since last week. I mean, it is amazing. I planted this clematis last year here, so I'm hoping to see some nice growth on this. All of the brunneras are starting to push out some of their larger leaves. We have this gorgeous Croce Regal hosta. You can see the lungwort are still blooming in this garden bed. We're starting to see some leaves come out on the witch hazel tree that's in this garden bed as well. And over here, a rhododendron is starting to open up. Right below it is an autumn frost hosta. And next to it, the moon dance hellebore. And just look at that grass. That's that Hakona Chloe grass, all gold. Nope, there's that bunny rabbit again. I tell him to eat the grass and not my flowers. And here's a stunning Japanese maple. It's finally starting to actually have enough substance to it. It was a clearance Japanese maple, and so I'm excited after about 4 years in the garden that it's really put on some good growth and you can actually really see it. And it's such a wonderful contrast to the hosta and the golden Hakone Chloe grass near it. I do have a sub-in-substance hosta right here. This one will get really large, and I'm super happy that it didn't get hurt by that freeze, because that can do some serious damage on the leaves. And we have a more blue variety back here. I think this one is called Blue Angel, and it gets really large as well. You can see our tiarella here, the pink fizz, is getting ready to bloom. I just love this one. And then we have some garden phlox. I'm just going to kind of show you down the pathway here. And let's come around to the front side just so you can see the way that it looks down here as well. I'm loving the way that these heucheras right here are performing. These are an older variety. I can't remember the exact name of them, but they're very similar to I believe they're called Spearmint by Proven Winners. The difference is the spearmint ones have much smaller leaves here than these other ones, so I really like the other ones and how they perform for me. Look at this oak leaf hydrangea, how big the leaves are on it now. And we have rhubarb in the container on the stump. And you can see we have some of our fancy finch. No, I think this one is the canary. It's one of the bird type of ajuga, but it has a very limey yellow color to the foliage, and then this beautiful purple colored blooms. And over here we have the heaven sent polemonium, and just look at how wonderful it's blooming now. And there's quite a number of buds that are still on it. And along with this lamium, you can hardly see the panicle hydrangea that's in here. It's amazing. And all of the little gold edger hostas are coming up along the edge of this garden bed. And just looking back this way, you can see how lush it has become. And gosh, I thought I was going to cut back these raspberry splash pulmonaria, but I just can't bring myself to do it quite yet. I'm going to give them a few more days before I do it, because there's quite a few blooms still on them and the pollinators are really enjoying them. We have our maidenhair fern coming up right here. It's starting to leaf out. And the trillium. And the dogwood's doing really good. I'm happy with the new growth on that one. I had a couple of suckers down at the base on it, but I pruned those off early this season, and I think this is going to be a gorgeous addition to the garden as it grows taller. I might actually take this branch off that's going so far out to the side, just to help it grow up taller, but we'll see how that kind of goes over time. The Tahiti daffodils are still blooming really well back here. We've got quite a few of them down the way here, and the colors are just stunning in the next long garden bed. Tons of blooms all over the Queen of Hearts Brunnera right now. And one of our Let's Dance Can Do hydrangeas is coming up here. And just look at this garden bed down here. We have lots of contrast happening. Now I have along the front edge of the border some Ben Verneuil as well as Autumn Frost hostas. The Ben Verneuil have a little bit wider of a leaf and the Autumn Frost have a little narrower of a leaf, but they are both very similar. And you can see the curly fries hosta right here coming up in the front as well along the edge of the border. So this definitely got mulched, but things have been coming through and digging, so I keep having to come back through and just kind of push the mulch back in. The weeping spruce is looking amazing, and you can see that new growth starting to push out now. So exciting. Oh my gosh, I see some buds that are getting ready to bloom on the apple tree, so that means we'll have hopefully some apples. Here we go right here. Those look like the only ones that I can see though. Maybe we'll get some more as the time goes on, I don't know. It doesn't get a ton of sun, so it's probably not going to produce a lot of apples, and with the groundhogs and the rabbits and it being so low to the ground, I usually don't get to enjoy the fruits much. We have some goat's beard right here coming up, and these are mahogany monster heucheras right along in here as well. And everything looks so great with those Tahiti daffodils. We came through and mulched the heucheras that we cut back, which really sets them off nicely. And behind them we have some variegated catchfly and a firelight hydrangea. Just look at these gorgeous daffodils. Aren't those beautiful? I love these Tahiti ones. The euonymus down here are starting to grow back. The rabbits definitely ate them really hard this last winter, but they're coming back, so that's good. And we see some of the muckgenia right here growing at the front of this border. And let me take you in the way back. Here we go. So you can see the way back, it's getting pretty wild and crazy now as things start to bush up and leaf out. We have lots more green. This is definitely an area where the mosquitoes like to hang out, but they're not here yet, thankfully. We have the Allium and the Brunnera and the lungwort and some gorgeous Tahiti daffodils out here as well. This is the Diane Clare lungwort. See how beautiful and ruffled the flowers are on this one? It's definitely very different. And then this one is the opal lungwort, and this one is almost white. There's a lot of different varieties of lungwort that are out there, and there's some very subtle differences between all of them, so it's fun. Now the epimedium are starting to bloom. Let me show you some of those beautiful little blooms. I put a picture up on Instagram the other day of them. They're little spiky blooms. We have some that are about white, and then over here another variety. They look like little stars, don't they? They're so pretty. The pollinators like them too. And we have some sweet woodruff that is starting to bloom here. The hellebore foliage is really leafing out now and so green. And as we come down here, we have the looking glass Brunnera, which is a little bit different. It's a little more silvery. It's definitely blooming really well. The hill is just a happy buzzing hill right now. Here we have the Jurassic gold fern getting a little bigger this week. And another Brunnera, I think this one's sea glass. Another really silvery one. This one looks like it has some damage from some insects already. You can see the epimedium from this angle. All right, well, let's take a look at the long border, shall we? We still have some minor blooms happening on the redwood over here. Not a ton, but the leaves are also starting to come out on it. You can see the golden tiara hosta along the front of that garden bed, really providing a nice lush border. Now, if you notice the dark spots on the arborvitae, that's just from when we had the warm weather in the winter and then we had the freeze and they got just hammered by it. So I probably need to come through and kind of trim some of that out. But if I don't, it will eventually fall off. You can see we have some nice foliage down here of the sedum. Several different kinds of sedum that I use to kind of line the side over here. And the buds are coming up on the chives here. Look how pretty the color on this barberry is right now. And this red bud is just about done with its blooms as well. It's really starting to have a nice contrast up against the neighbor's bloodgood maple. We see lots of foliage happening on this quickfire hydrangea back here, which is awesome because I planted that a couple years ago. So I'm excited for that one this year. Hopefully we'll get some good blooms on it. And the 9 bark, this is a fireside 9 bark, so that one should get fairly large. And our transplanted strawberry Sunday hydrangea right here is doing really well, as are the heucheras around it. We have a little bit of space in the middle here for something. Not sure what will go there yet. And the topiaries are doing good. So I'm really thrilled to show you this guy right here. Isn't that stunning? It's not even in full bloom yet, but just look at the gorgeous limey blooms on this Viburnum. Opening day Viburnum. Such a beautiful, beautiful shrub. I'm so happy I got that one. And it has some really nice contrast with the things that are down the way from it as well. So I'm happy about that. We have lots of the heucheras starting to push up their new growth and really fill out.
Someone criticizes it.
Now I want to take you over here first though, because I want to show you an azalea that is really blooming, and our bloodgood maple right here that has put on some amazing growth this year. It's really starting to look like a tree. I'll probably be doing a little bit of pruning on that as well, but we'll see how it hardens off first. Just look at this azalea. Oh my goodness, it is covered in flowers. You can hardly even see any leaves on it. So beautiful. And next to it we have some thyme. It's just a variegated variety of thyme. And the mugo pine by it. And we did take the cover off the fountain, which makes me so happy because it looks so nice. So much better than the cover. And of course over here, this is just stunning right now with all of the ajuga. Look at that. I mean, those blooms are amazing. Isn't that gorgeous? And this is the chocolate chip variety. And I'm just gonna let it keep spreading in here. I really think that it does a great job of providing a ground cover and a natural mulch to the area. And we have some primroses that are in bloom still over here. This one is finally blooming. But the ajuga definitely is what is stealing the show right now. We have some old boards over here because my husband replaced the deck railing, so I'm really happy about that. It was kind of rotting out and we really needed to take care of it, so that's been replaced, and eventually as it dries out we will paint it. The cherry tree is no longer in bloom, but you guys were getting some little potential fruit. I'm sure the birds will get it, but it's fun to see. Very fun to see. The mock orange over here is getting buds on it. And the clematis is almost in bloom behind it. I'm surprised that the Miss Kim lilac isn't blooming yet. The buds are still pretty tight on that though. Lots of things looking amazing right now. The large leaf hydrangeas are still just kind of coming up for me. But we have some allium. This is Sicilian honey garlic, and it has its buds on it and it is getting ready to bloom, which is really early for it. That one really typically doesn't bloom until at least mid-May. It likes the warmer weather. I have the firelight, no, not firelight, quick fire right here. And we're starting to see some of the wee hostas that are planted over here come up. So those will be nice and curly, kind of like the curly fries hostas. And we have some autumn frost hostas back in this corner. We have a Diamond Lake hosta over here that definitely got some of the freeze damage, unfortunately, but maybe I'll be able to trim off some of those this year. It's rather small this year, which surprises me because of how much rain we've had. All right, let's head out into the front garden. So this side is also starting to look really cool. We have lots of the snowball viburnums. Buds opening now here too. Isn't that pretty? Oh, I'm just so excited about it. Look at that. Such a beautiful shrub. Now that one can get rather large, so after it blooms, I'm definitely going to cut it back. And the royal ferns are starting to open up, along with this azalea, which is a very bright pink. And then we have some garden phlox over here pushing up. I need to come through and spray with the deer repellent. So this is what it looks like with the boxwoods gone. Not great yet. I need to come through with some mulch and kind of tidy the area up, but you can start to see the liatris popping up through the mulch right now, and that will help to fill the space some this year. Most of the daffodils are over in this garden bed, but I'm still enjoying the joy and the cheeriness of the little pansies or violas that I planted in here. And we have some chives that are getting ready to open. And the salvia is starting to come up and put its buds on. So we have some, I think it's caradonna, as well as May night salvia in this garden bed that will come up and bloom soon. And the little devil nine bark. My goodness, would you look at the blooms on these barberries? These are the Concord grape barberries. I'm definitely going to have to trim those up probably this year. We have some buds on the peonies here, and they're all kind of coming up around the spirea. So I want to move the spirea into this hole where we dug up the crabapple. That's kind of the plan for now until, or if I decide for something else, because the spirea should get quite a bit taller, probably at least another foot or so. And it seems to like its place out here, so hopefully that will look good. And this true blue fescue is starting to blue up for sure. I have some black scallop ajuga in here, which is starting to bloom. It's not a real showy one in terms of its blooms. The viburnum out here are just starting to open, so nothing too showy yet. We've had so much wind this spring. So the front sun garden bed looks good. There's still some daffodils happening out here. I believe these are the variety Early Cheer. They might be Sir Winston Churchill. Sometimes it's hard for me to tell the difference between some of the daffodils. But the bobo hydrangeas are still working on leafing out. The sedum's getting larger. And you can see the alliums that are along this garden bed, we'll look at them from the other side, are starting to bloom. And we have tons of little bobbleheads of the purple sensation alliums that are starting to pop up. And the Japanese ferns are showing underneath of here now, as well as the hostas. And let's take a look at this viburnum. Ooh, we have a salvia. I think this is a back to the fuchsia salvia. I'm not sure, but look at all the buds on that. Here's the wabi-sabi viburnum that's starting to open its blooms. So cool. And like I said, all the little dealy boppers with the purple sensation alliums. You can just start to see them peeking through. Hopefully we'll be able to see them bloom next week. And here's those Allium carativienses. They have such a beautiful bloom and such beautiful foliage, and they stay nice and low to the ground, so they're very nice even for the front of the border if you like. You can get white ones or red ones. These are considered, I think, the red variety, even though some of them kind of look like white ones. So this bed also has some black scallop ajuga in it that is flowering. Not a lot of show though right now. But this garden bed up here is looking really nice. What I normally consider our shady area. We have a small Japanese maple, which is a baby of the one that is here in front of our house that I will need to dig up. And then we have some maidenhair ferns that are just starting to show. And our wee hostas that are planted out here also are just starting to come up. And then you can see I've got the hellebores that I got on clearance out here because we're going to be planting those out here and digging up some of the babies. I have a really late blooming hellebore right here. This one just started to bloom. It's really late, the end of April. And then I also got an additional bloom on this Paris and pink one. It's kind of crazy. Weird things happen in the garden sometimes. You just never know what Mother Nature is going to do. Getting a lot more sun on this half of the garden bed because of the maple tree being gone over here in the afternoon. You can see some of the nice new growth on this pieris. And finally the hostas are starting to come up in here to really begin to fill out, which typically happens about in this time, but they are a little bit ahead of themselves. And the Mount Airy Fothergilla over here is blooming. And this is why they call it a bottle brush. I don't know if you can see this little spider that's on this. Oh. Very pretty blooms. And over here is the blue shadow Fothergilla with smaller blooms, but bluer leaves when they actually come out. So how is my crabapple doing? Well, it's a little bit wilty, it's a little bit sad. So I'm trying to baby it. Right after we dug it up, it went from rainy and cool to really warm, sunny, and windy, which is not a great thing for a plant that's being transplanted. So I'm watering it a little bit every day, and it perks up overnight, and then about this time of day it's not looking so happy. But we'll see if we can get it through. A little bit of transplant shock. We have some hostas coming up underneath this, and our Tahiti daffodils are just about going over in this garden bed. But the Weigela, which is a sonic bloom, is waking up. And this one should be blooming within the next few weeks, I think. Hopefully. Just planted that one last year. The grass is super green right now. It's growing unbelievably fast. And indeed, you can see how fast the lily of the valley has filled in this area. It does provide a nice backdrop, though, for the dark foliage of this Weigela. And our limelights that we planted last fall are leafing out really well now. And the barberry is doing good. I can definitely tell that we are not getting any blooms on this viburnum, but the leaves are really full. I anticipate we will be back in bloom next year. So that will be nice. We have a little late blooming daffodil here. This one is called Actia, if I recall correctly. Very pretty little center rimmed in red. And our quick fire fab hydrangea is doing good, tucked back in here. Can't wait to see that one too. Back behind the hypericum right here. I think we'll start to see some blooms on those soon. Hi, Bunny. So you can see he's not really very afraid of me. Okay, he's running because I'm talking probably. Sad to report that many of the buds on this spirea got zapped by the freeze. So unfortunately, I don't think we're going to get a very beautiful show on it. Usually it's covered in these beautiful little white flowers, but instead now we see all these tiny little black frozen blooms. But the lungwort at its base is looking beautiful. And this bird bath looks pretty good. We're seeing the geraniums start to pop up as well in this garden bed with the hostas. And I can't wait to see if this, if we get any buds on this black lace elderberry. It's definitely darker foliage than it was last year. It was much more green, and I think it's because it's getting a little bit of light through the fence actually because of those cracks. So that's pretty cool. Well, everybody, that concludes our video for today, and I hope you enjoyed walking around the garden with me. I know I enjoy it, and I'm thrilled to see how things are going despite all of our wacky weather. How are things doing in your garden now that we're in May? I hope it's woken up and you've been able to get outside and enjoy a little bit of springtime. We'll see you next time. Bye!